The Forbidden Zone *. The jungle was not marked on any Earth map, but Jack had heard the stories before he even landed on the planet. Zarella Prime. It was hot, dense, and full of strange sounds, but what made it different were the warnings that came from other species who had visited before. They called it the Zone of No Return, the place where male travelers disappeared forever. Jack was not the kind to believe in ghost stories or myths. He was a trained scout from Earth and had survived 5 harsh worlds before this one, but still he kept his plasma knife close and checked the air sensors every 5 steps. The deeper he went, the quieter the forest got, until even the insects seemed afraid to make noise. He spotted something hanging from a tree and walked closer. It was a torn piece of metal armor, burnt and old, with claw marks along the edge. Jack picked it up slowly and noticed strange slime stuck to the side. Something had attacked the last man who came through here, and it wasn't quick. Still, he kept walking deeper into the jungle, knowing that turning back now would mean losing his chance to discover what was hidden here. The foliage grew thicker, vines brushed against his arms, and the light from the sky started to fade even though it was still day. He paused when he saw a shimmering line ahead, almost invisible to the eye, but slightly glowing under his scanner, a trap line. Too late, he realized it was everywhere around him. A net of light suddenly triggered and snapped upward, dragging him off the ground like a leaf in the wind. He tried to cut himself free with the knife, but the net was too strong and charged with some energy that made his muscles go weak. He saw the jungle turn upside down as he was carried through the trees like prey being offered to a predator. Jack lost consciousness for a moment, and when he opened his eyes, he was hanging in a cage made from vines and bones high in the trees. His gear was gone, and the air smelled sweet and strange, like flowers hiding poison. Voices came from below, soft and musical, but sharp like whispers over broken glass. Jack looked down and saw them, tall, graceful alien females with sharp eyes, glowing skin, and strange war paint across their faces. They were not just living here, they were hunting. One of them looked up at him and smiled, not with kindness, but like a cat smiling at a mouse. "It has caught in a corner." Her voice carried through the air, clear and smooth as she spoke in a tongue he could barely understand, but the meaning chilled him anyway. "Welcome, male, you belong to us now." The snoo prisoners, *. Jack's head ached, but his instincts stayed sharp. Even in the strange cage above the jungle floor, he counted every vine knot, every bone spike, every sound the alien women made as they moved below. They didn't speak loud, but their bodies told stories of strength and control. They weren't just warriors, they were hunters. He wasn't alone in this nightmare. In the cages nearby he spotted others, not many, but enough to confirm the stories. Males from different worlds, weak, tired bones showing under skin, their eyes empty like they had stopped fighting long ago. They looked at Jack without hope, as if he would soon become like them. The air was thick with the scent of flowers and something else, pheromones. Maybe something biological that made his heart beat faster even when he didn't want it to. His cage slowly lowered to the ground, guided by soft, glowing ropes held by 2 tall females with shining skin and firm eyes. They didn't speak, but their grip was tight as they pulled him forward toward the center of the village. The huts were made from bones, vines, and polished stones, beautiful and cruel like the ones who built them. Drums began to beat softly in the background, and other women gathered to watch the new arrival. An older female stepped out from a shaded platform. Her body was covered in golden paint and strange feathers, her eyes like burning suns. One of the captors whispered her name, Calzara, the High Matron. She raised one hand and the drums stopped. She walked up to Jack and studied him from head to toe with a gaze that felt like fire on skin. Her voice was clear and powerful when she finally spoke in a language twisted but close to galactic common. "You are strong," she said, "but will you survive the choosing?" Jack's fists clenched, but he kept his voice calm. "What do you want from me?" The crowd of alien women giggled low and haunting. Calzara stepped closer and placed one hand on his chest, her fingers warm and slow. "You were caught by the hunt. You belong here now. Your purpose is to breed." Jack stepped back, pulling from her touch, but the guards didn't let him go far. Calzara's smile never changed. "Strength is rare," she said. "But you may prove yourself tomorrow in the trial if you wish to remain free." He didn't understand all the rules, but the message was clear. Fail and he'd end up like the broken men in the cages, a breathing toy in a golden prison. As night fell, a soft mist covered the jungle, and Jack was tied to a post inside a stone hut with glowing flowers on the walls. He heard a voice at the door, not guards this time, but another woman, her shape hidden in shadows, her tone soft yet dangerous. She said only one thing as she stepped inside the hut: "I hope you last longer than the last one." The High Matron's challenge asterisk. The woman who entered was not like the others. Her body was wrapped in dark cloth, and her face was painted with silver lines that glowed in the dim light. She moved with quiet steps like a shadow, and her eyes never blinked as she looked at Jack. She didn't speak her name, but he felt her power like heat from a fire. She walked slowly around him, her gaze sharp like a blade. She carried no weapons, but her presence felt dangerous. Jack didn't flinch even when she leaned close and traced a line across his chest with her finger. Her touch was firm and cold, and yet there was no cruelty in it, only judgment. "You do not fear me," she said, her voice calm and deep. "Good. You might survive the choosing, if the others don't crush you first." Jack didn't answer. He had learned in battle that silence was often more powerful than words. The woman gave a small smile, then turned and left, leaving behind only a strange scent like ashen flowers. Morning came with the loud calls of jungle birds and heavy drum beats. The cages were opened, and the males were pushed into the village square. Jack stood tall, his hands tied, but his mind focused. He was ready to fight if needed, ready to run if given a chance. Calzara stood on a stone platform, her body painted in red and gold. She raised a curved blade and pointed it at Jack. "Today you face the trial," she said. "If you win, you choose your fate. If you lose, we choose it for you." The crowd roared with excitement as the guards untied his hands and handed him a wooden staff carved with strange symbols. Across the field, 3 alien warriors waited, each holding a staff of their own. Their eyes glowed and their muscles tensed like lions ready to pounce. A horn blew and the trial began. The warriors rushed toward Jack with speed and grace, but he didn't meet them head on. He ducked, rolled, and let the first attacker miss her strike before swinging his staff low and knocking her off balance. The crowd gasped as she hit the ground hard, but Jack didn't stop. He moved fast, using his human instincts and battlefield training to dodge the second warrior's attack. He grabbed her wrist, twisted, and threw her into the third before they could regroup. Calzara watched in silence, her face unreadable. The crowd was no longer laughing. They were watching with wide eyes and open mouths. No male had ever moved like this. No male had ever fought back and won. The last warrior charged with a roar, but Jack sidestepped and placed the end of his staff gently against her throat. She froze, breathing hard as the crowd fell into silence. Calzara stepped down from the platform and faced Jack eye to eye. She didn't smile, but her voice was soft as she spoke. "You will dine with me tonight." The trial of the flame dancers asterisk. The village changed as the sun fell behind the trees. Torches lit the jungle paths and drums echoed like heartbeats in the night. Fire dancers moved in circles around a wide arena of packed earth and bones while the crowd gathered to watch the next test. They called it the trial of the flame dancers, but Jack could already feel this was more than a game. Calzara stood beside him, wearing robes of fire-colored silk, her golden blade resting against her hip. She looked at him with calm eyes and gave a single nod before stepping away into the shadows. This was his moment, and no help would come from her now. A masked warrior stepped forward and raised both arms. She shouted words in their native tongue, and the fire dancers screamed with joy as they scattered. The arena gates opened, and 10 alien women entered, each holding a short spear and wearing armor made of dark vines and bone. They circled Jack like wolves around prey, moving fast, but not attacking yet. He spun slowly, keeping his eyes on each of them, his heartbeat steady and his legs ready to spring. They were testing his nerves, his fear, his patience. One charged without warning, her spear aimed low. Jack jumped aside, letting her pass before swinging his staff into her back, sending her sprawling into the dirt. The others reacted fast, coming from all sides. Like a wave of claws and flame, he ducked 2 spears, jumped over a sweeping leg, and rolled under another attacker's leap. He grabbed a burning torch from the ground and swung it wide, forcing 2 warriors to back away. Firelight danced across his face as the crowd roared in approval. Jack wasn't the strongest, but he was smart, fast, and wild like Earth's forgotten hunters. He tricked one attacker by faking a stumble, then flipped her onto her back and used her own spear to block another strike. One by one he dropped them, not with brute strength, but with clever moves and careful timing. 4 warriors remained, and they regrouped at the far edge of the arena. They spoke quickly, then charged together, hoping to break him with force. Jack ran straight toward them, then slid under their legs and came up behind. He slammed 2 together with his staff and kicked the 3rd into the 4th. All 10 were down, breathing, heavy, bruised, but alive. The fire dancers stopped moving, and the drums silenced as Calzara stepped back into the arena, her eyes locked on Jack. The High Matron raised her hand and pointed at him with a slow nod. "The trial is complete," she said, her voice loud and strong. "This male has earned respect and right of choosing." The crowd cheered, but not all faces showed joy. In the shadows, a warrior with scarred cheeks and burning eyes watched Jack with hate in her heart. Her name was Ushina, and she would not let a human steal her place. The Forbidden's Bond * Jack woke inside a new shelter, not a cage, but a stone chamber filled with warmth and soft light. The walls were covered in carvings and glowing moss, and a bowl of fresh fruit sat beside his bed, made from jungle leaves and soft fur. It felt like a reward, but also like a test. Outside the chamber, alien women walked with slower steps than before, eyes filled with wonder instead of hunger. They no longer saw him as prey or prisoner, but something different, something rare. Still, he didn't trust it, not fully. Calzara entered without warning, wearing armor that shimmered like fire under moonlight. She sat across from him without speaking at first, her eyes scanning his face as if trying to read a truth behind his silence. Then she placed something on the floor between them. It was a broken pendant, small and metallic, with the Earth flag still carved into the edge. Jack's breath caught in his throat as he reached for it with shaking hands. "Where did you find this?" he asked. She answered slowly, pointing toward the jungle's edge, where old ruins still stood. "Many came before you," she said. "They were not like you. They didn't fight. They didn't survive. This was one of theirs." Jack looked into her eyes, and something changed in the air between them. Not fear, not threat, but something like quiet understanding. She wasn't just a leader. She was once a daughter of loss like him. Later that day, he was taken to a training ground where young alien warriors practiced with weapons made from bone and steel. Calzara asked him to teach them something from Earth. He hesitated but agreed, using sticks and stones to show how humans fought in groups with speed and smarts, not just strength. They listened, they copied, and they laughed in ways that didn't sound cruel. Even the youngest girl with silver tattoos and wide eyes followed every move. Jack made like she was learning how to fly. That evening, as the stars blinked above the jungle, Calzara brought him to a high cliff where the wind whispered across the trees. She told him stories of how her people lost all their males during the Great Burn, how they made rules to survive and keep their bloodline alive. Jack listened, and then asked the question that burned in his heart. What happens now? Do I stay here forever, or do I get to choose? Before she could answer, a scream rang through the village. Jack and Calzara ran back to find a male prisoner on the ground, coughing blood, his face pale, his body shaking. He had been poisoned and no one saw who did it. Jack's instincts screamed a name he hadn't spoken aloud since the trial. Ushina. As the healers rushed in and guards secured the area, Jack looked into Kelzara's eyes and spoke with firm breath. It's not over yet. The uprising of the chosen night fell heavy on the village, but peace did not come with it. Whispers filled the air like smoke moving from one hut to another as fear began to grow. The poisoned male was still alive but barely, and no one claimed to see anything, though everyone knew the truth in silence. Jack stood at the center of the village with Cal, Zara beside him, both watching as guards questioned warriors and searched sleeping chambers. The firelight made their shadows stretch long across the dirt as the crowd stared with nervous eyes. Then a loud voice broke the tension. It came from a warrior near the training stones. Her arms crossed, her eyes cold and proud. It was Ushina, and she didn't hide anymore. This male weakens us, she said. He twists our ways with tricks and lies. We are not meant to follow males. The crowd stirred but didn't cheer. Some looked away. Some looked unsure, and some tightened their grips on weapons. Jack stepped forward, his voice calm but clear. I didn't come here to rule. I came to survive and maybe help others survive too. Kelzara raised her hand to speak, but Ushina didn't wait. She pointed a spear at Jack and shouted, I challenge him by flame and fang, by the law of old blood. Gasps filled the air as the meaning became clear. It was an ancient duel where only one could walk away, and the winner decided the fate of the other. Jack looked to Kelzara, but she gave no answer, only a sad nod as tradition ruled above all else. The next morning the village gathered at the ashrin, a circle of scorched stones surrounded by ancient totems. Jack stepped into the ring with nothing but a short blade and his breath. Ushina entered with full armor, her body painted with war colors, her face cold like winter. The duel began with no words, only movement. She struck first, fast and hard, her blade flashing toward his chest, but Jack twisted and rolled, letting her swing pass. He moved like wind, not trying to win with power but with timing and speed. She attacked again and again, each strike wild and full of rage, but Jack stayed calm, using the ground, the fire, the smoke to guide her movements. He led her into a stumble, then hit her with a broken torch handle, knocking her helmet loose. Ushina roared and charged, but Jack grabbed her wrist and turned her momentum against her, flipping her to the ground with her own weight. He pressed the blade near her throat but didn't strike. He looked up at Kelzara and the crowd, then stepped back, slowly lowering the weapon. She is beaten, but she lives, he said. Your ways must change, but not with blood. The silence broke into cheers, this time not of victory, but of respect. Even the young warriors clapped with wide eyes and soft hearts. Jack had not just survived, he had started something new. No more snooze, new asterisk. The flames in the village burned bright, but not with war. Songs filled the night air as warriors danced, not in hunger, but in hope. The duel had ended the old ways, and the one who spared his enemy now stood as more than a survivor. He stood as a symbol. Jack sat beside the fire, surrounded by warriors who once hunted him, now asking him questions about Earth, about his people, about why he showed mercy when he had a blade to the enemy's throat. He gave no long speeches, only simple truths. Because I don't want to rule through fear, he said. I want to leave something better behind than just my name. Kelzara stepped forward, dressed not in armor, but in soft robes of her tribe's oldest design. Her hands held the old law stone, the object that carried the tribe's codes for generations. She lifted it above her head and spoke for all to hear. From this day, no male shall be hunted, no male shall be forced to breed, no male shall live in cage or fear. Those who wish to stay will be honored, and those who wish to leave will walk free. Cheers rang out, and even some elders bowed their heads in agreement. Ushina stood at the edge of the crowd, her wounds bandaged, her eyes tired, but no longer full of rage. She turned and walked away in silence, leaving behind her pride and pain. The cages once used to hold prisoners were torn down by young warriors, laughing as they worked. Vines burned, bones shattered, and for the first time the village floor was clear open. and welcoming. Jack walked to the jungle edge where the starship beacon blinked, waiting to call the transport. Beside him stood a small alien girl with silver tattoos, the one who had watched his training and copied every move. She looked up at him with big eyes and asked, "Will you come back someday?" He knelt beside her and smiled gently, his hand resting on her shoulder. "Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but what matters is you know how to stand and fight your own way now." Kalzara joined him, her expression unreadable. She handed him a small box, carved from crystal and vines. "A gift," she said, "something from our world to yours." Inside was the broken earth pendant, now fully restored. Jack nodded and took one last look at the village, at the warriors who had once feared change, now embracing it. He pressed the beacon button, and the sky answered with a quiet as light touched the trees. He turned to Kalzara and said one final thing before stepping into the clearing. "Didn't just save me, you saved yourselves." The ship landed, and the human who escaped death by Snoo Snoo walked free.